Live? Okay. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from today. Thank you for tuning in to SRF's end of year campaign. I'm sure that many of you have no idea who I am, so I just want to take a quick moment to introduce myself before we get started with today's interview. I'm Kelly Bemmel. I'm our Director of Operations, and I've been with SRF for almost 6 years now. And I'm really excited to be talking with our guests today and learning about how we can work together to encourage the government to support longevity initiatives. And with that, I'd like to welcome Dylan Livingston, the founder and CEO of the Alliance for Longevity Initiatives. A4LI is the first and only 501c4 nonprofit founded with the goal of creating social and political action around the issues of combating age-related disease. So it's great to have you, Dylan, and thank you for taking the time to be here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, A4LI would not exist without SENS and all the other giants that came before us. So definitely happy to be here and talk to everybody.
Yeah, that's great. So can you start off and just tell everyone that's watching a little bit about A4LI and how it started, kind of what made you decide on a career revolving around longevity research?
Sure. So I actually am privileged because I have been longevity conscious since I was a very young child. It actually started, I saw a video of Aubrey and I saw that beard and I was like, whoa, as a 12-year-old, that really sticks with you. As a teenager though, you kind of put aging to the back of your mind, didn't really think about it as much until COVID hit. COVID and the ravages of aging that came along with COVID were evident, right? Really quite clear, trying to figure out why this disease would kill my grandfather and my, family who are older than me and not me was really something that pushed me into this field because I truly realized that aging was the, underlying factor for morbidity with COVID. So that kind of pushed me back into this field. I realized that aging was something that I believe needed to be fought against, and being that I was not a biologist, I realized that there are other ways to help. I had an extensive career in politics before starting A4LI, and I realized that this industry as a whole did not have any political voice or representation. And so A4LI was born with that mission in mind, to give this industry and this mission a voice in the halls of Congress and Capitol Hill.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. There are so many scientists out there, but I think you're the only person I know of that's really advocating on the political end of things, and that's really important because we need the government to support it. We're going to continue to have funding for research for longevity initiatives.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of a great segue into my next question, which is, how does A4LI engage with policymakers and legislators to advocate for longevity research funding and policy change?
Sure. Well, like the general populace, policymakers are uneducated deeply about the longevity field, right? And a lot of our conversations revolve around education, raising awareness. Policymakers aren't going to take action on something they don't know about. So that's step one. Generally, we reach out to staffers within a certain congressional office that we're trying to target. Generally, we discuss these things with the chief of staff or legislative director. They're generally the people who are most available and also have the influence in the office to get things done. So we spend a lot of time talking to high-ranking staffers in these offices, educating them and looking to educate the entire office, including the member of Congress, on these issues. But just to reiterate, it's a lot of education at this point. We're actually hosting a congressional briefing in January that I'll probably discuss a little more on this talk later. But the goal of this briefing is to educate and raise awareness, for a number of offices at once, right? Get a bunch of them in the same room, listen to a briefing on longevity science. So yeah, I'll stop there. But really, it's education and awareness at this point.
Yeah, well, so far it seems like A4LI has been pretty successful with educating them and getting them excited about it. I mean, you guys just started the Longevity Caucus. What was that like for you? That was a pretty important step.
Yeah, well, it's an important step. It's definitely not the final step, right? But it is the first time that Congress, our government, has made an emphasis on, it's the first time Congress has really even recognized this field, right, in any meaningful way. We have the NIA Division of Aging Biology where geroscience research is done, but this is the first time members of Congress have recognized this field, and I think that's an important step not just because we want to raise awareness, but, we need champions for this space, people who are willing to introduce legislation, advocate for legislation, go out on the campaign trail and talk about these issues, right? And so creating this caucus kind of gave us a foundational piece for pushing legislation and finding these champions. So it's a great first step. That was definitely a difficult undertaking. We spent most of 2022 getting that done, finding the right people in the right districts who, have the impetus to back this initiative. I mean, clearly every politician should support research into longevity, but there are specific districts that, like, for example, Sen's Research Foundation is in Anna Eshu's district, who is a part of the Longevity Science Caucus, right? And so there are specific districts that we reached out to because of their constituency. It was, it took a while to try to figure out who's who and who does what and who we want on this caucus. But yeah, it was a multiple month effort, but we got it done, and we're glad we got it done because it gives us something to move forward with.
Yeah, I think something that's really important to point out about the caucus is that it's bipartisan. And that's
Sure.
something that you don't really see right now. There's so much polarization in the political arena, and you guys were successful in bringing in Republicans and Democrats to come together, and both sides obviously see that this is an issue that we should all care about. It shouldn't be one or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the two sides come at it from different perspectives, right? We actually did a series of polling in 2022, and the purpose of it was to kind of give this industry an idea of what the public thought about what they're doing, but also to help tailor our messages to specific politicians, right? And so we found that obviously this is not hidden knowledge or anything like that, but Republicans care a lot more about balancing the budget and national security, whereas the Democrats care more about inequality and health-related initiatives, right? And so that was really useful for us because we were able to tailor our messages to each political office. And at the end of the day, everybody wants to live better for longer, right? So there's always a way to make that message resonate. You just got to find what the politician or the person you're talking to is interested before that, and kind of tie longevity into that.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of, I was listening to your most recent H-Span podcast, and for anyone who's watching right now who hasn't tuned in, it is on Spotify. I know that. That's how I found it. So, and you were talking with Brian Johnson, and kind of this theme that you guys kept bringing up was that we are all playing the game of let's not die. So that's something that it doesn't matter what your beliefs are about taxes and things like that. We're all here and we have a common goal, and that goal is to live longer, healthier lives. So, we all breathe the same air. We all cherish our children's future, and we are all mortal. Those are JFK's words, not mine, but they're words that have stuck with me for my whole life, and they're true, right? We are all mortal, being the most obvious one, and we are all trying to not die, as we talked about. Absolutely, 100% agree. And it's not something that people think about, though. You have to actually make people think about that. Everything we do is to not die and to be safe and to live, right? So yeah, exactly.
Sorry, it's definitely a powerful slogan, though. Don't die. I like it. I'm a fan of it.
Yeah, it's very straight and to the point, and it gets the message across.
Exactly.
So kind of, you kind of alluded to it a little bit in, talking about how one side maybe focuses more on different aspects to what happens when we live longer versus the other side. And I think there are a lot of people out there who might be thinking, how are we going to address the social, ethical, and economic implications that are going to occur when people start living longer? I mean, for instance, there's already talks of, the boomer generation depleting our social security, and how we're going to deal with that. How are we going to keep that going? So how do you think we should be addressing those things? What do you say to people when they have those questions for you?
So That's a good question. We already know what happens when lifespan increases. That's happening already, right? We saw this happen in France. You raise the pension age and people riot, right? So there's a lot of potential issues that can crop up with this effort that we're pushing right now, right? Because there's a lot of social realignment that needs to happen, a lot of relationships change, the way you attack work and your family, right? Everything is going to change if people are living on average to 100 or 120 or whatever it may be. Part of A4LI, or part of the purpose of A4LI is to act as a think tank and produce policies that not only will lead to us getting to longevity, escape velocity, whatever you want to say, but also policies to help address the issues that may arise after. And so that's part of what A4LI is set up to do. But really, what needs to happen is the government needs to not only help expedite the development of these drugs, but create thoughtful policies and prepare for the implications, right? And whether that's do we do a single payer healthcare system? Do we raise the age of Medicare? I don't know what the answer is necessarily, but I do know that the answer is the government needs to think thoughtfully about this, and we don't want to be we don't want to kind of be in a situation where we are with AI right now, where nobody paid attention to AI until ChatGPT came around, and now it's on everybody's mind, and policymakers are scrambling, right? We don't want to be in that situation. So that's why, even though therapies aren't readily available today, we want policymakers to start thinking about the implications of these therapies, so that policy can be developed, when policy is already prepared for when the time comes.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. That's exactly what needs to happen is get their attention now, get them to start thinking about what the future is going to look like and preparing for it, so that we're not, once we get to this point where we're living to be 100 and on, we don't want to be, the government is crumbling because they don't know how to handle it.
Exactly.
And that's just such an important thing that A4LI is doing.
Absolutely.
Getting the voice heard.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of really smart people in government that and their job is to come up with policies around these issues, right? And so we need to make them think about these issues in their day-to-day lives and start preparing now. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. So I wanted to actually talk about really quickly your advanced approval pathway for longevity medicines. You proposed it back in April of this year. I know you guys got a ton of signatures. So what's the current status? What are you guys waiting on? What's the next steps for that?
Sure. That's a great question. So AAPLM is a piece of policy that A4LI developed that takes there's a number of precedential examples for what we're trying to do with AAPLM. We took inspiration from the regenerative medicine advanced therapy pathway, which was put into law back in 2017 or 18, whenever the Cures Act was signed into law. And basically what that does is it creates a specialized pathway for regenerative medicine companies to get accelerated approval to interface with the FDA sooner and whatnot. And so what we wanted to do is create an analogous pathway for companies focusing on the biology of aging. And so AAPLM is an FDA pathway, a proposed FDA pathway that accelerates the approval of longevity medicines by giving accepted companies a priority review voucher and patent extension on their drug. This is not only to help the companies in the space right now, but it's to encourage new companies to crop up. If there's a clear pathway to success or a pathway for accelerated approval, more companies will crop up and more investment will be driven into this space as well. So there's a number of factors, for why we wanted to push this pathway. Right now, we're actually internally debating, what is the main goal for 2024 legislatively, because 2023 was setting up the caucus. Now we have this, interest group together. What do we want to do with it? I'm sure many of you have seen the government here in DC has been a little wonky the last few months with budget budget discussions, and then a lack of speaker, and then a new speaker, and then continuing resolutions here and there, and yada, yada, yada. So there's a big fight over the budget right now. And so realistically, getting any significant amount of funding to the NIA Division of Aging Biology is probably a non-starter this year for most offices. And so a regulatory change like we're proposing with AAPLM is a lot more feasible in our mind because it doesn't require any moving of money, there's no appropriations asked, things like that.
Yeah.
So the big goal for 2024 for A4LI will be to introduce AAPLM into legislative form in the House of Representatives. 2024 is also a presidential year, a presidential election year, so DC becomes kind of a ghost town after like May, June, so we'll have to move quickly.
Yeah.
The goal is to have it introduced and ready to be lobbied for in a full-on effort in 2025, so we can get this into law within the next 2 years. But part of political advocacy and strategy is recognizing that DC is an ever-changing field of players coming in with their own interests and new situations cropping up, and you have to be flexible and realistic, right? You have to be realistic with what is possible, and really you have to be realistic with the time frame of things here. Things move a lot slower than I think people in Silicon Valley would like it to move. So that's the general plan. We're looking to get this into law as soon as possible, looking to get it introduced in the next couple of months, hopefully.
Yeah, that's great. And is there anything that just the general public can do to kind of support this initiative? Should we be reaching out to our representatives and saying, look at this proposal and explaining why we want them to support it, other than signing your petition that you already have? And is that still open for people to sign if they want to?
Yeah, look, petitions are in my opinion, they're not the most effective advocacy tool.
Sure.
Really, so ways you can help the effort. I'm going to say something that people may or may not like to hear, but this is the truth. We need money to make this happen, right? We need funding. We need donations from people in the industry who are committed to this issue and committed to this effort.
Yeah.
A small group of rabble-rousers can make things happen in DC, but if we want to create an environment where policymakers are constantly thinking about the longevity industry and initiatives to make people live in better health for longer, and if we want to constantly have a presence, we need to raise sufficient funds. And if you look at other industries, if you look at the climate change industry, they have multiple A4LI equivalents that raise $500 million to $1 billion a year. If you look at the gun lobbying, gun rights lobbyists, right? The NRA, they raise $500 million a year, and they're the most effective legislative nonprofit in the world. I mean, gun laws haven't changed, right?
Right. Yeah.
So if we want to be, at that level where our voices are being heard at the same sound as the gun rights lobbyists and the climate change people, we need to put money into this effort. I really think that if every biotech chipped in this space, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 per year, we would be in an excellent spot. There's, according to Carl Flager's last website update on agingbiotech.info, there's, I think, 180 companies in this space now. If everyone gives $10,000, we're able to advocate for everything we want and more. But everybody needs to buy into this effort. The success of A4LI is the success of the industry and vice versa. And so, we need help. We need all of you to help us help you. Is basically the message. So I'll stop with the money stuff, but definitely if you're a biotech, consider supporting A4LI. But on an action front, there's a few ways you can help. One, if you are a scientist or an entrepreneur, send A4LI updates, because what we do is every month we send congressional staffers updates on the longevity industry, and we pull them off the internet and from our people that send it to us already, but we want to have more info to share with these people to continue educating them. So if you have news articles or updates about your company or anything like that, please send them our way. I also implore all of you to go to our website and sign up as a subscriber and a volunteer. When election season comes, volunteers are very helpful, and if we want to get on the, if we want to further influence politicians, that's a good way to do so. But really, what we need is volunteers who can, agree on the spot to sign petitions and send emails, because really, people think that when you send an email to your, local representative, they just throw it in the trash bin, but that's not true at all. And one of the most effective political advocacy tools is getting like 10,000 people to write an email to a single congressperson and just flood their office with letters, because they get the message. If they see the same letter coming in over and over again, they're going to be like, oh, maybe I should think about this, right? And so that actually works. But, the industry is kind of small, right? So I need all 5,000 to 10,000 people in this industry, 10, 15, 20, whatever it is, to be on board with writing letters when we need that to be done. So really, if you're a company, contribute. Let's make this move forward, financially. But if you're an individual or an advocate or an enthusiast, sign up for our volunteer page and allow us to politically organize this industry, because we can't do it if we don't have all of you kind of on board and ready to march for the same thing. So.
Yeah, definitely. And SRF is a sponsor of A4LI, and I just want to encourage any other members of the biotech community, companies that are watching, or other nonprofits in the longevity space to become a sponsor, because you are the single voice for us when it comes to the politicians, and it's important to extend the longevity of A4LI, to extend our longevity of our lives as well. So, and like Dylan said, sign up and become a volunteer. I'm sure it's going to be crazy starting in January. Things are just going to be, the whole year is just going to be things thrown at us. So we might as well join in and start throwing things at our representatives that we really care about. And I know everyone watching and everyone in the space really cares about just the longevity field and extending our lifespan. So, put your time where your mouth is.
Exactly.
So I do also want to talk a little bit about some things that you mentioned that are coming up in 2024, specifically the fly-in event. I know that's something that SRF is really excited about. We're going to be there. We're hoping that a lot of people in the space join and come for that event in DC. So what kind of things can people expect at the fly-in event? What's it going to look like?
Sure. So it'll be a 2-day event. Day one, we'll be doing a dinner with the industry, a little bit of a fundraiser, but also a chance for the industry to meet some politicos, I like to call them, people not necessarily in government, but are around government, lobbyists, think tank people, members of the RNC, DNC, those types. One of my biggest complaints with events in the longevity space is I see the same 50 people at every conference. We need to grow the field of people who attend these kind of conferences. So A4LI's dinner on the 24th will be a chance to do that and meet a new group of people that are influential and interested in longevity. Day two on the 25th will be a congressional briefing at the House of Representatives. We will have a few speakers from the longevity field. We'll announce those sometime in the coming weeks. But that will be a great chance for the industry to show that this is actually an industry and not just like a group of people who are interested in living forever. And it'll be a great chance for the industry to interact with, many offices at once. A4LI strategy of trying to schedule meetings with individual offices it's good, but it's not the most efficient way to get this done. The best way is by getting 30, 40, 50 offices to attend a briefing and hear about the wonders of longevity science from the horse's mouth, if you were. So that'll be on the 25th, and then after the 25th, after the briefing on the 25th, we will be working with and encouraging attendees to schedule meetings with their local representatives. Fly-ins are a great opportunity to do that. Everybody's going to be there anyways. You might as well. But you actually, you can go to your member of Congress now after the briefing and have an actual ask and say, hey, I just attended the Longevity Science Caucus briefing. It would be great if you guys could join the caucus. Here's why. And so that'll be the kind of schedule of events. It really, it's a chance for people in the industry to make new connections with important people, but also it's a great chance for the field to make a strong first impression on Capitol Hill. My mother always said you only have one chance to make a first impression. This is our one chance to make a first impression. So, and what I'll also say is, in my ideal world, we get, out of the 60 spots that we have, just to throw that out there too, the space is limited at this. So out of the 60 or so spots we have, my hope is that we can get 20, 30, 40, 50 companies represented. Having a dozen people from the same company is fine. However, if we can get individual companies and entities here to show again that this is an industry, not just a few companies trying to make this happen, that's a lot more powerful. So I recommend that every company, every institution listening to this, send a representative, and it'll be a great event and a groundbreaking event. This is the first time this is happening. This is the first time there's any briefing about longevity on Capitol Hill. This is a cool chance for us to make a good impression. So, come.
Yes, yeah, it sounds very exciting. I'm super excited. I'm really close. I'm just a short drive away, so I'll definitely be there. I think I'm bringing one other person from SRF. And so, like Dylan said, please register for the event and go. And SRF will make sure that we post how to register for the event. That way anyone who's watching from our page knows how to. Especially if you're in a driving distance, you might as well go. There's no reason not to go. So I think we're just about running out of time. I just want to end with one more question for you. How do you believe that A4LI's work will help to change the public perception about aging and longevity research?
Sure, yeah. So, there's two different kinds of advocacy. There's grassroots advocacy, talking to voters and individuals and, everyday people, right, and trying to, galvanize them for a certain political effort. And then there's grass tops advocacy effort, and that's kind of what A4LI is focusing on. Eventually, one day when we're, hopefully one day when we're the size of the NRA or AARP, we have enough to do both. But right now we have to focus our efforts on the grass tops. Talking with legislators and creating legislation to incentivize people to join the field is a great way to bring awareness to the field, right? A bill that allocates $1 billion to new companies in the aging space means that there's going to be a lot of new aging companies in the world, and that means there's a lot of more employees that are working on aging, and that means there's a lot of families that have someone in their family working on aging, and that just kind of grows the field and grows the general awareness. And so I would say, that is A4LI's big, selling point when it comes to changing perceptions, right? We're able to change the perceptions, or we're working to change the perceptions of people at the top so that we can, realign incentive structures and bring more people at the grassroots in.
Yeah, that's great. So I want to thank you for being here, Dylan. If anyone has questions for you, where should they reach out? Just on the A4LI website?
Sure, yeah. You can email any questions to info@a4li.org. That's our questions email. Any comments? We're for the longevity industry and by the longevity industry. So your input and comments really do make a difference. We want to hear from all of you about what we're doing, about the initiatives that we're pushing. So please, a dialogue is absolutely key.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Thanks for everyone that tuned in today for our end of year campaign and to hear all about A4LI. We're really excited about what you guys will be doing in the coming year and how we're gonna fix this together. All of the companies together. We need to come together. So
it's a hard problem, but I do want to say thank you to SRF for your support. You guys are one of the earliest supporters of A4LI, and I'm grateful that you see the mission the same way I do, and that we're aligned on this.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks so much, Dylan. I will be seeing you in January.
Yeah, see you in January.
All right. Thank you, everyone.